hospitality, Laura, and the kind introduction, and just the warm welcome coming in. I'm joined by my wife, Elizabeth, and there you go. So just thanks for the chance to be with you. I thought I'd reflect a little bit about what the past 22 months have been like in Washington, and focus in particularly on the healthcare debate and this new healthcare law, and to give you sort of a backlot tour of what actually happened. Because what actually happened, in my view, is incredibly shocking and disappointing, particularly in light of where the national debate was when President Obama was sworn into office in January of 2009. So rewind the tape, if you will, and to think about what it was like when the president took office. There was near consensus in this country, I think essentially, that there were two primary areas that we needed to concentrate on as a nation as it relates to healthcare. The first one was to deal with the irrational cost of healthcare, right? Healthcare is outpacing normal inflation by orders of magnitude, and intuitively we know that doesn't make any sense. And to the extent that costs continue to drive, that's where the action needs to be. So go after the cost drivers, most Americans said. And then the other was deal with people with pre-existing conditions. Because let's face it, we all know people, we have family members, we have friends, we have employees, we have co-workers that get jammed up in a system based on a pre-existing condition. So they're basically pressing up their nose against the glass, looking in at the best healthcare system in the world, but they're not able to participate in it. Those were the two areas where I think the country came together with a real sense of clarity. Now, that's with the backdrop, though, of recognizing that without question, we have the best healthcare system in the world. I mean, there is absolutely no system that is its rival. And the proof of that is if you're wealthy and you live overseas and you're really sick, what do? You get in an airplane and you come to Mayo Clinic. You come to the Cleveland Clinic. Come to the University of Chicago and you get a procedure done, because the best medicine is in the United States, because on balance we have created a system, and we have all been the beneficiaries of a system where reward and risk are related to one another. So in other words, if somebody invents something that's medically fabulous, they may have an opportunity to make a lot of money, and it's still a profit motive system by and large. And ultimately, what does that do? Over the long run, it creates more buoyancy and a better system. But there's these two problems that I mentioned. One, cost. One, pre-existing conditions. Well, obviously, when the president came into office, those things were sort of talked about, but they were ultimately pushed off to the side. And it became clearer and clearer and clearer during the debate that while those things were sort of trotted out as part of the debate and trotted out as part of the argument, there was really, in my view, a much larger agenda. And that was to load up and basically get the United States of America on a pathway to a single-payer system, to a Canadian-style system, to a British-style system. And there were the proof of that was one of our own suburban members of Congress, Jan Schakowsky, who gave a speech to a single-payer group. It was sort of a rally during the healthcare debate, and there were people who were single-payer advocates who were becoming disappointed that the Obama administration wasn't going far enough. And Congresswoman Schakowsky essentially, and I'm paraphrasing here, she said, hold on, we're going to get there. This is how we get there. By moving towards this bill, it will get us to a single-payer system. And she's right. Because ultimately, it is a predicate to a single-payer system. Because here's what happens. Our district, this area out here, is chock full of first- and second-generation companies, right? We work in these companies. We drive by these companies every day on Route 59 and Gary Avenue and North Avenue. And the story is remarkably similar about these companies. By and large, and I've been in about 3 dozen of them in the past 4 months, you go in and you talk to sort of the old man, right? The 70-year-old guy who 45 years ago is working on the northwest side of Chicago, and he's a tool and die guy. And he's living up by Wrigley Field or something. And he's a tinkerer, you know what I mean? He's one of those guys that's in the garage all the time tinkering around with stuff, and he comes up with some neat new idea, and he thinks, wow, I could maybe get a little something going here. And over a period of time, he borrows a couple of grand from his mother-in-law, and his wife starts helping him, and together they build this business, and now they're in Hanover Park, or now they're in Carroll Stream, or now they're in North Elmhurst, and they've got 100 people working for them. And it is the mainstay of our economy out here. And you go in and you talk to a guy like that, and you say, well, what happened after the wheels came off the cart on the economy in September of 2008? He'll say, Congressman, we did two things. We turned our costs off like a faucet. We just got it done, unlike you people in Washington. We turned spending off when revenues slowed down. And we ran through a lean manufacturing operation, so this place is humming like a top. We had to let some people go, and I've never let a person go in my life, some of these guys told me. But we had to do it because we had to do it. But now we're doing okay. And then you ask the next question, well, what's next year going to bring? And I'm walking with one of my staff, and we're at a place in Carroll Stream. We're on Gary Avenue, and one of these owners told me, we're walking the plant floor, and he said, the smart move is for me to put $750,000 into that production line, Congressman, right there. And it's a bunch of, gadgets and stuff. I didn't know what it was. He says $750,000. If I do that under normal circumstances, it will pay for itself in about 3 years, and I'll make money. Okay, so are you going to do the smart thing? And he said, nope, I'm not. Why not? Because Washington, D.C. tells me I'm rich, and they're going to raise my taxes. Because the tax code is not settled for this year, 2010, and that's a fact. Because the House of Representatives, for the first time since the Modern Budget Act was passed, didn't pass a budget. Because my health care costs are going up, my broker comes in and he tells me, good news, we really shopped it around. It's only going up 18% this time. He says the credit markets are a complete basket case right now, and even though we're running low to the ground and I'm not in a bunch of leveraged adventures, I have customers who have to borrow to finance their purchases from us. The credit markets haven't figured out what's going on the Barney Frank, Chris Dodd bill, so my customers haven't figured out what's going on, and that means we wait. And that's really the problem. That is the lion's share of the problem with this economy right now. Now, a couple things. You go out and you talk to that small business owner, the guy that I talked about, he and his wife have this company, and let's say it's in West Chicago. He is looking out over the landscape, and they're making decisions from a healthcare point of view, where their broker has sincerely shopped it. I mean, the broker's not hustling anything. The broker has shopped it, come in and said, it's going up 17, 18, 19%. Okay, so that business person, they go out and they bid on some work. And here's what happens. The work comes back and they can't figure out how is it that we lost that job to Joe's shop down the road. And what ended up happening was, and this is my prediction, this hasn't happened yet, but I'm telling you, as sure as we are here together this evening, this will happen if this bill is not repealed. Joe's shop down the street is going to figure out, I'm not going to pay 18% of my payroll on health care. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to pay my penalty to the federal government, pay 8% of the payroll, put the people onto the public exchange, and I'm walking away. What does that do for Joe? That gives him a 10% payroll margin to negotiate and offer a better price to the customer. And what happens to the guy that we've been talking about? That happens to him one time, doesn't it? And then all of a sudden he whistles everybody in for a meeting and he tells his employees, I'm sorry, the market has changed. I can't